Hello guys, welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we'll be looking at the cathode ray experiment performed by J.J. Thomson, the cathode ray experiment. Now, in the experiment, J.J. Thomson used what we call the discharge tube. He used what we call the discharge tube. So to demonstrate his experiment, I have a bottle here which represents my discharge tube. Is that okay? Alright, so what did he do? He evaporated air out of the tube so that the air pressure in the tube would be very, very low. He evaporated air out of the tube so that the air pressure in the tube would be relatively very, very low. Is that okay? And then he placed two electrodes. So over here, this one indicates one electrode, and then over here, this one also indicates another electrode. So this electrode here, the black cover you can see here indicates my cathode, that is my negative electrode, and then this side indicates my positive electrode, known as the anode. Is that okay? So when we look at the diagram I have here, this is a discharge tube. That air is evaporated out with the help of the vacuum pump, which can be regulated. So air is pumped out of the tube so that the air pressure in the tube will be very, very low. Is that okay? And then also I have my two electrodes. So over here is the cathode electrode, and then here is the anode electrode. Is that okay? Alright. The cathode electrode is negatively charged, and then the anode is positively charged. Is that okay? And then in addition to this, he connected a high voltage to the tube. A high voltage was connected to the tube. So I have here my high voltage generator. Is that okay? So that was the setup. Once he connected the high voltage to the tube, he could visualize a green glow of particles, and these particles were emanating, or they were coming from the cathode electrode, and then they were moving towards the direction of the anode. That was the first observation. Once he connected the high voltage to the discharge tube, he could visualize a green glow of particles. And the particles were emanating, or they were coming from the cathode electrode, and then they were moving towards the anode electrode. Is that okay? That was the first observation J.J. Thomson made. Now, in demonstrating to that, so I have my discharge tube here. This is my cathode, and then here indicates my anode. So once I connected the high voltage, so my body here indicates the high voltage connection, and then he could visualize a green glow of particles, and these particles were coming from the cathode electrode, and then they were moving in the direction of the anode. Is that okay? And they were moving in the direction of the anode. So Thomson was just observing, and then he reasoned something. So he further performed detailed analysis on these particles to understand the particles well. So what did he do? He introduced an external field around the particle. The first external field he introduced was the magnetic field. He wanted to test the magnetic field influence on the particle. Is that okay? So over here, we are going to use the small oval foam here as our electromagnet. So once he placed the electromagnet around the tube, he observed something. What observation? This particle that was seen moving straight in the tube could be seen deflecting or bending in the tube. It gave Thomson an idea. Is that okay? So once the magnetic field or a magnet was coiled around the tube, the particles that were moving straight from the cathode to the anode could be seen deflected or bending with regards to the poles of the magnet. That was another observation. So to validate his curiosity, he then introduced another external field, that is the electric field. So Thomson introduced another electrode system or an electric field around the tube. And this time around, so I have here my positive electrode, and here being my negative electrode. Is that okay? So to his observation, the particles that were emanating from the cathode, this time around, they were just moving or bending away. Once they get closer to the negative terminal, they were bending away, and then they were moving towards the direction of the positive terminal. Once the electric field was created around the tube, it gave Thomson an idea. So Thomson reasoned that it is only a charged particle which will have an influence when it is brought near an external magnetic or electric field. So since the particles were deflected, or there was deflection when a magnetic field was brought near the particles in the tube, and then also a deflection away from the negative terminal towards the positive terminal, gave Thomson the idea that these particles that we see, they are charged particles. And indeed, if they are charged particles, what particles are they? Are they positively charged particles or are they negatively charged particles? So he then reasoned that only like charges will deflect away from each other. So if I have a negative charge and another negative charge, once they come together, there's going to be repulsion or deflection. But if I have a negative charge and a positive charge, once they come together, there's going to be attraction. Is that okay? So since the particles were bending away from the negative plate and moving towards the positive plate of the electric field, it indicates that these particles are negatively charged particles. These particles are negatively charged particles. Is that okay? So that was another observation and interpretation to that observation. So the first observation was that in the absence of any external field, he could visualize the cathode rays or particles moving from the cathode electrode, and they were moving in the direction of the positive electrode, that is the anode. That was the first observation. So to perform further analysis on the particle, he introduced an external field. That is, he introduced a magnetic field around the tube. And once he introduced the magnetic field around the tube, the cathode rays were seen deflected or bending in the tube. Is that okay? Another observation was that after the magnetic field was introduced, he introduced the electric field. And this time around, the particles were bending away from the negative terminal of the electric field, but were moving towards the direction of the positive terminal. Thomson explained that the particles being deflected or bending away in the magnetic field and also in the electric field indicates that these particles are charged particles. But what charged particles are they? He then reasoned that since they were deflected away from the negative terminal once the electric field was created, moving toward the direction of the positive terminal, it indicates that the particles are negatively charged particles. He then named these particles cathode rays. Why? Because the rays were coming from the cathode electrode in the discharge tube. Is that okay? Is that okay? Alright, so Thomson then reasoned that is it because of the gas that I was using, or is it because of the electrode system used in the tube? That is why these particles were emanating from the cathode. So he changed the materials in the setup. He used different electrode system. He used different gases in the tube. But the same result was obtained upon several changes in the materials. So he therefore concluded that no, these particles are present in all matter. They are present in every material. Is that okay? These particles are present in every material. So that is a cathode ray experiment. So first of all, he used what we call the discharge tube or an evacuated tube. That is, air was pumped out of the tube so that the air pressure in the tube would be very, very low. And then he connected a high voltage. And this is a high voltage generator for our connection. And then he placed two electrodes in the tube. One is negative and then one is positive. The negative electrode is known as the cathode, and then the positive electrode is known as the anode. Once the electricity was switched on for the high voltage, a glow of particles were emanating from the cathode and they were moving in the direction of the anode. A green glow of particles were emanating from the cathode, and then the green glow color that could be visualized in the discharge tube was as a result of the zinc sulfide coating of the discharge tube. Is that okay? So now that was the setup of the experiment, and then the observation made was that in the absence of any external field, particles were emanating from the cathode electrode, moving towards the direction of the anode electrode. Another observation was that the particles, once an external field was created around the tube, the particles were seen deflecting, both using the magnetic field and also the electric field. Is that okay? Another observation was that the particles were moving away or bending away from the negative terminal of the second electric system that was introduced to create an electric field around the tube towards the positive terminal. Is that okay? And the last observation was that after several changes in the materials used in the setup, the same result was obtained. The same result was obtained. So you can explain each observation as its corresponding conclusion. So observation that the particles were deflected by both fields, that is the electric field and magnetic field, indicates that the particles are charged particles. Once we are talking about charged particles, we need to know what charged particles are they. Are they positively charged particles or negatively charged particles? So to indicate that, Thomson then reasoned that since the particles were bending away from the negative terminal and moving towards the positive terminal, it indicates that the particles themselves are negatively charged particles. Why? Because only like charges will repel or deflect each other. Same results was obtained after the materials were being used, indicates or suggested that the particles are present in every material. That was the cathode ray experiment. So after this experiment, Thomson gave us a model of the atom. Thomson gave us a model of the atom. Now let's look at the model of the atom. Now, Thomson's model of the atom. So Thomson gave us a mind picture of what he perceived the atom to be. Thomson described the atom as a solid sphere which is positively charged. He described the atom as a solid sphere which is positively charged, and it has ring of electrons uniformly embedded in it. So I have here the solid sphere. He described the atom as a solid sphere, and this solid sphere is positively charged. And in this positively charged sphere, it has ring of negatively charged particles or electrons embedded uniformly in it. This model of the atom is also known as the plum pudding model. It's also known as the plum pudding model. It is also known as a plum pudding model, which is likened to a dish or a food in British, which is a pudding with plums on it. That's how the model of the atom described by Thomson looks like. So the atom is a positively charged sphere, and this sphere has ring of negative electrons uniformly embedded in it. That is, the negative electrons and the positive nature of the sphere makes the atom electrically neutral. That was Thomson's model of the atom. After Thomson suggested this model, his colleague Ernest Lord Rutherford had to reason that if the plum pudding model is actually correct, then he needs to perform certain experiments to validate Thomson's model. So collectively with Marsden and Geiger at Manchester University, they performed the famous alpha scattering experiment. That is our next lesson. So in our next lesson, we'll be looking at the famous alpha scattering experiment performed by Marsden Geiger and Ernest Lord Rutherford. Thanks for being with me today in this lesson. See you some other time. Goodbye.